The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
I'm almost getting used to this.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
I'm going to loosen my tie here. This is
Yeah, you're a little overdressed for today's show.
yeah, well, other pressing business, you know.
Hey,
but,
it's a wonderful thing.
it is.
So let's
it's Wednesday and Hump Day. Let's get it on.
Let's get going. So right off the bat, as we know, the Electoral College delegates all met on Monday, and they voted for, in unison, Donald Trump as your official president-elect. But I think it's funny because the Democratic Party took it in the face again. They said Hillary was going to be the nominee no matter what. Even if Bernie Sanders had the popular vote, she was still going to be the nominee. They made sure that happened. And then she loses the election. Slap in the face there. Elizabeth Warren, congratulations, because we're going to pay for this, as she said, if when Hillary gets elected. I guess she's paying for it now. But the Democrats took a hit because none of the Republicans jumped ship on Donald Trump. The Democrats did.
Well, fair weather friends.
And to top it all off, the media took the hit on this, and in 104 years since the Electoral College, there hasn't been this much of an uprising against a candidate. So those faithful or faithless delegates took a hit and said, the heck with Hillary, she's useless too. So, you know, you have to ask yourself, is this process really worth the aggravation?
You know, and is this process needs to be addressed and fixed because, you know, I mean, we've got people at the Electoral College either has to be kept, and and its mission has to be clearly defined, or it has to be scrapped. And regardless of what the people determine, and the reasons therefore, as you know, we discussed this earlier. You know, the Electoral College is there because this is the United States of America, and they wouldn't stay united if some of the states that don't have dense populations were able to be run over by the heavily populated states like California, New York, etc. So the Electoral College, whether you agree or disagree, does have a basis in a fundamental way to represent a united state where people are like, you know, they want representation, but they don't want to have other parts of the country dictate and basically have no say. Because theoretically, you could have 3 or 4 states vote in a popular vote 100% of their population, and the other 46 states would be in a toilet, and they would have to live with it. And you know, those states would not like it. They might secede. But the reality is, what disturbs me more than anything else is the Electoral College itself. I don't know, you know, and I know that in some states they allow them to do this, and I vehemently disagree. You know, you exercise your right to vote your conscience when you walk into the voting booth. If you voted for Hillary, if you voted for Donald Trump, if you voted for Faith Spotted Eagle, you can do that. You know, you can write in Colin Powell or Faith Spotted Eagle or whatever you want. But when you're representing your state or a portion of your state, you, like politicians, so the Electoral College, as far as I'm concerned, have become politicians. Because now they lost, their candidate lost, and now they want to vote their conscience again when that's not what they're there for. Just as every congressman, every senator, every state rep, every state senator, every city councilor, every mayor is there to represent the people. This is a republic. The members of the Electoral College are there to represent their state or that part of the state. And unfortunately, the majority rules. So I feel that they're obligated, they're mandated not to vote their conscience. They had their opportunity, but to do their duty as a representative of their individual states. And this is ridiculous. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, and they jumped ship on Hillary. And remember, the candidates that jumped ship on Hillary were jumping ship on a candidate that they said was the only hope to save America. So I guess she wasn't that big a hope because they bailed out on her anyway. So I mean, this is
failing hope.
It just doesn't make sense, because these are the people that ran around and said if Donald Trump gets elected, the world's going to blow up.
Yep.
Everybody's head is going to explode.
And weren't they all supposed to leave the country?
Yeah.
I haven't seen mass exodus at the borders
yet. That's right. We're waiting for some of them to leave the country, and they never will.
Right. So while we're on elections, let's talk about the failing Charter Commission. Yes, Mr. Mayoza, the failing Charter Commission. You are doing everything humanly possible, Mr. Mayoza. And I'm sorry I'm only calling you up, but you know what? The remainders, except for one dissenting commissioner, Dan Robillard,
the only true man of the people on that commission,
are just following lockstep with you. You all should be wearing brown shirts. There should be a red flag behind you, because this is ridiculous. Now you want to propose restricting the individual's right to run for office? You want to require 500 signatures now to get on the ballot instead of 50? You know what? I support one signature, their own.
That's right. Anti-American, Mr. Mayoza, Chairman Mayoza, anti-American. This is a great segue, CJ. We segued from Electoral College members not representing the people they were put on the Electoral College to represent, and now we have a Charter Commission that wants to make it more difficult to become a candidate for office. And you know something? That is not what America was based on. This is what destroyed America. The fact is, you cannot run for Congress or Senate without selling your soul. It costs millions and millions of dollars to run for those offices. You have to be a millionaire. When's the last time you saw a carpenter or a painter? Remember the painter they elected in Rhode Island for a couple of terms?
Yeah.
And he was just a regular guy. Well, regular guys can't, that's why the government no longer represents the people. There's no regular people in there. They're all lifetime politicians and lawyers and multimillionaires, and their daughters are the CEOs of pharmaceutical companies making $25 million. And yet, here's the Fall River Charter Commission. The Fall River Charter Commission wants to now they want to make the recall virtually impossible to allow the people to be heard. And now they don't want the average person to be able to run for office. And you know something? I'm very disappointed in Mike Mayoza. Because you know something? The fact is, how do you engage people in the electoral process? Get them involved. The recall involved them. Getting them to run for office, they get to see, and we hear other people's ideas. I don't care if 50 people run for city council, or 100 people, good. That's 100 people we're going to know are going to show up at the polls, and maybe some of their friends. We should not be making it more difficult for the average citizen to participate in government. We should be making it easier. But you know something? Almost everybody on this committee is a politician or associated with a politician. They're on politically appointed boards. Their fathers were politicians. They were politicians. And kudos to Dan Robillard. I think he's been a dissenting vote about 90% of the time.
I was going to say just about on everything.
Just about on everything, because you know something? Danny, and I've talked to Danny on some of these issues, and Danny's opinion, and I'm not speaking for Danny, but he's basically said that he remembers he's there to represent the people. He's looking at it. He's looking at it from an average person's perspective, and kudos to him, because this commission has done right from the get-go. You know, we voted, and I voted for a charter change, but I voted for it saying that we were going to bring the charter up into the 21st century and then have follow-ups to tweak it more. They went into a complete charter change. They've discussed everything. They hired a consultant. That's not what I voted for, and I am telling you right now, I don't care what comes out of that charter commission. I'm voting against it. Because that's not what we wanted to be done. I don't want some consultant to come down here and tell me what they do in every other city and town. Because if that was the case, we'd have a state charter, not a city charter. I want Fall River people to decide on Fall River issues, and I want it run by the people that I elected to do this.
And the worst part about this is we've had a 6610 request pending for months, and Joe Macy and Mike Mioza are doing everything humanly possible to deny the people the right to know what this consultant has been saying. They refuse to provide it, saying, oh no, it's still in deliberation. It's not in deliberation. When you discuss it at the meeting, it's no longer in deliberation. And you are doing everything humanly possible to make sure that the voters, the people of Fall River, are kept out of the loop. Okay? That is called backdoor politics. That is called fascism. That is called denying the rights of the people. You know, Mike, I am so surprised, and I shouldn't be. Let's see, you're on the police board now. There's rumors that you may be getting an appointment in city administration if somebody leaves. Who are you representing? We wanted change. When you put this whole thing together, which, by the way, it took you a long time to get these signatures. Absolute failure, in my opinion, because if the campaign's designed properly, you get them. But again, that's my opinion.
Yeah, and you know something, CJ, you're right, because look, I'm looking at this, and you know, 60 signatures, and then they wanted 500 and 300 now for the city. You know, these proposals they're preposterous. You know something? If I can get some, I don't care if the guy goes down to the local soup kitchen and gets 50 signatures. I'm with you. It should be like 10.
Right.
You know, because if somebody gets engaged enough to run for office, they might have an opinion that's, you know, they may have 300 really idiotic ideas, but they may have one idea that works. But regardless of whether they have an idea that works, you've now brought them into the process. You've brought them. If they're running for office, most likely they're going to go and vote, and their friends will vote,
right,
and they'll at least talk to their friends.
And you know, to me, this seems like it's trying to keep the riffraff,
the
alleged riffraff, out of the electoral process. Because, you know, you have people like Dave Meade, Ron Cabral, Richard Branco. You have people who run, okay? And they took the time. And, you know, we make fun of them sometimes, and Ron Cabral will run for everything but dog catcher. And, you know, he's state rep. Another election's coming up. What office is he going to run for this time? But you know what? He's at least engaged. He may not get elected, but he's engaged. And his small supporters are engaged. So guess what? I don't care if Joe the plumber wants to run and he can only get one signature, that being his and his wife's or something, you know? Guess what? Let him run. What's it going to hurt? Why? Because the list is going to be too wide. We may need 2 ballots? Well, this is a denial of the people's rights.
Well, it's a denial of the fundamental foundation of America, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. When you're trying to make it too difficult for anybody to participate in the political process other than march to the polls and do what you tell them to do and vote. And to me, this is beyond. This is anti-American.
Right,
because you're trying to make it. You're trying to carve a section of the population out of the process. You're going to say, listen, if you can't get 500 signatures, what's the next thing? If you can't get 300 signatures and show us that you have $5,000, you can raise $5,000 to run a campaign, you're not allowed to run. I'm going to tell you, that's the reason this government is as screwed up as it is, because you can't get into Washington unless you sell your soul to big business, the pharmaceuticals, and you make deals with everybody, because it's going to cost you $10 million to run for Congress.
That's it.
For a what? A $100,000 a year job? It's going to cost you $10 million. That's what's wrong with the process. There are no longer, you remember that great movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington?
Yes, I do.
There's no longer Mr. Smith's going to Washington.
No.
They're Mr. Politically Connected's going to Washington. No poor people can basically successfully run for office on a nationwide level. It's
even at a local level.
And even at even for state rep. I mean, you're hindered. You've got 2 strikes against you, and they took your bat away for the 3rd strike. If you're an average person and you want to run for state rep, or you want to run for anything, basically, and that's wrong. That's not what this country was predicated on. The fact is that when we became a country, there were people who were shoemakers and there were people who were farmers, and they put down the tools of their trade, and they picked up a musket and they went and fought. What did they fight for? They fought for the right to be heard. They fought against taxation without representation. And you know something? They died for this country. This is today. Do the rich kids go to fight? No, not anymore. Not with an all-volunteer. You don't find too many rich kids. Even during the Vietnam era, most of them got college. Look at our vice president, Cheney. 5 deferments. He never served. He loved to start wars, and he loved to sell materials with Halliburton, but 5 deferments. And one of those reasons was he was too busy.
You know, but the thing is this. If this is what you want to do, Councilor Maioza, and the 7 other councilors, commissioners that want this charter the way you've proposed it, because I've watched this all the way through and I've been nauseated every time, do us a favor. Remove the charter, appoint a dictator, and make this the fascist state. And then you tell everybody that they will march down Main Street weekly in lockstep, goose-stepping their way down to pay homage to the 6th floor dictator, because that's what you're creating, and that's the end of that.
And that's what exactly what they want to do. We still got to change Fall River's name to Copyville.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a charter that we hired a consultant to copy everybody else's charters.
Exactly.
So, I mean, this is what we do. Your taxpayer money, again, going to supplement, carving you right out of the process, taxpayer and resident. All right, next on the agenda.
Fall River has hit its lowest unemployment rate in 16 years, 4.1%. Now, I got some numbers that are going to make that laugh. And do you know how we got bumped up to 4.1% or bumped down to it? Because they hired 169 people in Fall River. I guess that's the Amazon jobs that we're talking about. But guess what? Those 169 seem to have been hired as temporary. Because Amazon has 1,000 people, but they're all temporary. You know, this is the joke. We're going to send the propaganda police out regularly to make sure that you know that 169 jobs mean that Fall River is coming back.
Well, you know one? Yeah, well, that's a crock because, number one, we know that, you know, figures don't lie, but liars can figure.
Oh, yeah.
You can manipulate statistics. Now, a 16-year low, we're still not anywhere near the state low, but the fact is, what percentage of our population is actually employable? Well, this is funny because we're going to go to another one we're going to talk about, Mark Monroe's article about No Surprises a Housing Study. says 73% of the Fall River rental units are rented to people 75 years or older. They're not in the workforce. So you got almost 3/4 of the population that are living in rental units that aren't even employable. They're on their way to Oak Grove. And the fact is that this is what we have. The reason we have we have even 37% that own properties. Many of these people that are not in rental units, they're retired and they can't afford to move out of Fall River. So all these numbers are skewed. 16-year low. Number one, you take the thing that people have been unemployed so long, they're taken off the books. And secondly, that this kind of temporary employment drastically affects a percentage because our workforce percentage is fairly low for a city of this size.
Well, according to Department of Labor, we have 38,680 people for a workforce.
Yeah, well,
of which 37,102 are employed and 1,578 are unemployed. Now remember, that's unemployed. That means 1,578 people in Fall River are actively collecting unemployment. Now this doesn't represent, obviously, the full Fall River thing, but the city started the year with a workforce of 39,578 with 35,831 employed at an unemployment rate of 9.5% in January. So a whole bunch of people got off the unemployment rolls. So it's going to be interesting to see. So you know what, Mr. Fiola, who can't say Merry Christmas or anything when you walk by him, please spew this crap somewhere else. Well, because there's enough bull coming out of City Hall already, and you're now causing it.
Well, let's call Rob Million. Tell him we're on the rise here. Unemployment's down, so the businesses can get more money now because people have got money. So let's increase the business tax. Let's see if Million goes for that deal.
Exactly.
All right, we want to use statistics in our favor. We can use them in our favor, too.
Right. Well, another thing, because, you know, time is running out. A Fall River company is leaving Fall River. What do you know?
What a surprise.
Yep, and guess where they're going? To Woonsocket. Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Woonsocket.
Where they park the cars side by each.
Another really, really low income. It's one of the worst in the state of Rhode Island.
And this employer currently has 12 employees. This is Surplus Solutions. They're located at 1250 Airport Road, where they rent. But they got $500,000 to move its operation to Woonsocket, Rhode Island. But guess what? To do that, they have to have jobs for Rhode Island. Jobs. Imagine that, Chip. They get the money if they produce jobs.
No, I can't imagine it. I just can't imagine it because in Fall River we can't do that.
That's right.
Kenny Fiola keeps telling us we can't do things like this.
And here's the thing. The company has made a 12-year commitment to remain in Woonsocket in order to win the tax credit, and the credit is good for 10 years. Okay? It's going to receive a tax credit worth $450,681, according to the Commerce Corporation. But they have to produce jobs. And if they don't have the jobs, guess what? They don't get the tax credit.
You mean kind of like what Governor Raimondo said about the $35 million investment they were going to give that company that was going to invest $150 million?
Yeah.
That before they saw one penny, they would have to produce jobs.
Imagine that.
And invest money in the community. Imagine that. We can't do that in Fall River because the guru of the economy that's been there for 20 plus years, and look how good they've been doing, has said we can't do things like that. But hey, now we get to living in Dion. No surprises, huh?
Yep. You know, we talked about this when I got the report, but I think one of the things he brings up very clearly in his article, and Mark, I'm telling you, you're either watching our show or you're reading our mind, because state consulting reports, always 50 grand. I think I'm going to become a state consulting company, okay? Because it's $50,000 to tell people exactly what they want to hear. I think that's what this guy for the Charter Commission's doing. He's telling them exactly what they want to hear.
But that was only $40,000. So you came in a little under budget.
He came in a little under budget. But, you know, this is just getting to be more and more ridiculous. This just adds insult to injury to everybody in Fall River.
Yeah, and how many times have we studied some of these things? We study upon study, and then we have studies on everything that you would figure that somebody making six figures could figure out how to proceed. But as we know what Eddie Lambert did. We know that he studied everything from how many times people sneezed at the foyer in City Hall, and where did he land when he left the mayoral seat? He landed in the place that did the studies for him. So, and then he managed to maneuver himself into more government jobs, but that's what they do. And who pays? The taxpayer. You know, and this is what it's all about. It's like they study everything, but that's taxpayer waste. I mean, we know of the federal government, they study the mating habits of grasshoppers in northeast Utah or something like that, and they'll give somebody who's politically connected a $750,000 federal grant to study grasshopper mating rituals or something. And you know, again, this is all payback, and it's all skimming, and that's what government does best. Waste your money.
But you know, what's interesting is Mark has, either we joined Mark's club or he joined ours, because he says in his story here that probably the most useful statistic in the study is that 5 years prior to 2014, that'd be 2009, the number of owner-occupied multifamily units dropped by 16.6%. He states, I was writing about that trend 10 years ago, but it's not like it's my fact. We say that stuff on here all the time, and then they say,
right.
"Oh, hey, I think one of the most true statement, the truest statement he could have made at all here in this thing is about how Fall River is calibrated. I love that too. Everything in Fall River was calibrated to low-paying but easy-to-get factory work that was stable and could be gotten by people with no more than a high school diploma. The school system, rents, housing prices, everything was calibrated to those jobs. In other words, the city was set up for low income, for no money. Moderate income in Fall River for many, many years was equivalent to the poverty line, and still today is very close to it. This is why Fall River can't grab itself up and pull itself up by the bootstraps.
Well, you know, Mark is very, very accurate, and we've been saying this for a long time. And we talk about money, and we talk about imposing the tax burden on people. But like you said, he says here, you get a landlord who has to a $1,400 a month mortgage. They have to charge rents that people making $10 an hour, which in Fall River is considered pretty good money for most of these people. They can't afford, and that's what's happened here. That's the reason that even low-income people have moved out of Fall River, because they're not going to pay the kind of rent if they can and live in Fall River with the problems we have in Fall River. So what do we have left? This is the reason we import people with subsidized housing, because Mark hit it right on the head. We do not have, as I said, how many times have we said on this show and in front of the council that we have 23% of the population in this city living below the poverty level? We have the lowest household and per capita incomes in the state. Yet, they keep telling us how Fall River, the tax rate's so low. No, it's not that. It's not that low proportionally to what the people make. That's one of the reasons that the people can't survive, and landlords are not collecting rents. You're killing them. You keep taking away money from them. And, we have to bring back, as he said, we had, easy to get jobs, but we've got to get jobs. We're not gonna cure Fall River's problems with studies and these bull studies. We need to start talking about bringing jobs in, and real jobs that the people of Fall River can actually work at.
I hear you.
Stay angry, people. They're killing us.
They're killing us one way or another, and I'll tell you, Chip, it's not getting any easier. We're going to see what happens, and we'll see you all on Friday. Have a great week, and remember, call your charter commissions and tell them to get off their butts and do what you want.
And remember, don't shoot anybody over a parking place.